I'll get the link to you so you can send it out to everybody.
Perfect. So that'll be
There.
part of
Yeah.
that email to everybody. Watch your emails after the class. So you'll be able to watch this and reference it in the future. So
Yeah. Awesome.
very cool. Well, I will get out of here.
Cool. Speaking of being able to access after the class, I'm putting something into, oh, Laura's on. Before I get rolling, Laura, if you wanted to come on and say hi to everyone, by all means, please do. And while you're getting the camera up, hello. You are still on mute, I do. Oh, no, there you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm Laura Heilman with Capture One. If you guys have any questions, we are running the deal like they had already announced. So be sure to take advantage of that during this time. And after, I'm not sure how long we're running that for. So I guess get the deal. We'll send out the link.
Perfect.
Sorry, just trying to get that back on there real quick. Yeah, we'll usually run it probably just like through the weekend. So
okay, perfect.
For this week. Yeah, we'll work out the details on that as we send that out. So thank you.
Brilliant. Cool. Let's get rolling. Let's talk color. For everybody, I'm putting into the chat a link to the an outline for tonight's class. It's shared. It's free to grab and download inside of Google Drive. You just have to be signed into a Google account, I believe. But that is my outline for everything I'm talking about today. So feel free to grab it to use it for your own workflow to make sure that everything we're talking about makes sense as you go forward. If you've not met me before, hello, I'm Joe. I own a company called The F-Stops Here. I am a photography instructor based out of Denver, Colorado. And back in March, I started partnering with Capture One to start doing some teaching in conjunction with them through amazing retailers like Action Camera. And I'm just really, really glad to be here. So thanks for having me and having me back. We're going to be talking about color today. So let me go ahead and we're going to do some screen sharing here. All right. And you should be seeing my Capture One there. This is really, I think, where Capture One starts getting really exciting. Because when you talk to people about why switching over to Capture One makes a lot of sense, what are reasons to actually do it? Interestingly, color and the capacity to do really interesting things with color is one of the primary reasons. It's one of the editing forward reasons to be working in the software. And knowing what this thing can do under the hood with color is going to up your game. So that's kind of where we are headed. I plan on talking for about an hour and then fielding some questions for whatever folks have. So that's kind of our plan here. Cool. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're looking at Capture One, and already something's missing. And this is going to be kind of my personal opinion on it. But out of the gate, you would be forgiven for not knowing that Capture One has an immense capacity for editing color, that it is a primary capacity of the software, because there's nothing inside of our tool tab or the layout that immediately says there's emphasis on color here. But it's actually built in. It's actually ready to go. And there is a color tool tab, and I'm a big believer in it. So this is here, my adjust tool tab. And you can see I have removed all of the color tools from it. I believe color is so important in the editing with Capture One that it deserves its own space. So we're going to come over to the three dots next to your tool tab icons, add tool tab, and color is built in by Capture One, but it's not in the default workspace. I'm a big believer that it should be. Hold Command or Control, and we can move that to wherever we want. I like to work in a very specific order with Capture One. I like things to run exposure, then color, then refinement. That's the order I do things in. And I like for my tool tabs to be in that order. Please note, there's no reason it has to be whatsoever. I just like it that way. So you'll notice I run adjust, color, and then the refinement tool tab. So here is our color tool tab right out of the tin. And it's got some stuff that you probably already use substantively. And it probably has some things that you don't use regularly. So we're going to get into this, and I want to show you some things that are a major part of my workflow. Okay. The first one is this thingamajig here that everybody skips, base characteristics. What the heck are base characteristics? It is a crying shame that people skip over this. You don't need to do very much with it, but it will enhance your imagery. And we need to understand something that is called an ICC profile. ICC stands for International Color Consortium. It's a governing body over the way the color is actually rendered, essentially is what it is. And we're talking about color profiles. Any process or material or item that creates or displays color is going to have a range of colors that it can actually handle, right? What's called in the gamut and what's called outside the gamut or out of gamut colors. And it is the ICC profile that is the defining understanding, right? The defining characteristic of what color is actually available with a camera. And actually, we can do stuff with this here. I want to show you, there's something that a lot of people don't know that you can actually see, but this is what's called color spaces. Okay. So we've all heard of the Adobe RGB and the sRGB color space, right? This is the Adobe RGB color space, which is this is just a range of color. What is reproducible by the Adobe RGB system. And what a lot of people don't know is these are actually three-dimensional objects, right? So so this is the unsaturated area, the highly saturated area, and going around just a color wheel. And we know that these can be bigger than each other, right? And so just so you can see, I'm going to hold for comparison against our standard sRGB. So everything that is that kind of open space is in the Adobe RGB color space, but not in sRGB. Okay, now you might ask, why would you use one versus another? And it depends on your process. I'm showing you this to understand that there's kind of the same thing going on with ICC profiles and the color that is reproducible by a camera. Okay, in fact, I have here a custom profile for my camera of what it can reproduce. Okay, anyway, what we have is automatically a generic understanding of the ICC profile of your camera, okay? But here's what you didn't know, and that is that, let me switch my cursor, Capture One builds in what they call Pro Standard, which is, hey, we think we understand how to take the colors reproduced by this camera and actually remap them to a larger and more accurate array of colors. So take a look at what happens in here, particularly with these deep pinks in this flower, when I go from generic to Pro Standard. I'll do it again for you. Generic, Pro Standard. Generic, Pro Standard. It is a widening of the color that is available and the depth of the color that is available immediately. And we can actually make this really, really straightforward for your workflow. I'm going to show you how. We come to the three dots here, and we say save as default for this camera. In this case, it was a Canon EOS R. Your camera will be inserted here. And what that means is, hey, now every time that I import images from this camera, it's going to default to the Pro Standard as opposed to generic. That's useful. That sounds good. Now, if you use something like the Color Checker Passport to create a custom camera profile for your camera, that actually shows up underneath Other down here, right? So the ICC profile, go down to Other, and it shows up there. So if you do that, that's where that's located. And those are ways of broadening the full color range of what you can produce. Cool. Next, everybody's favorite, white balance. Let's make sure we understand this. And the real thing that we're going to play around with is that white balance works really well inside of masked areas, right? So we can adjust color temperature in masked areas uh, and use that as a big creative benefit. But let's make sure we understand the essentials. Hopefully we all understand how to read a tool in Capture One, but let's make sure we do. If you have a magic wand, that's an auto adjustment. Yay. If you have the arrow that copies to what's called an adjustment clipboard, which is where we can paste and edit from one image onto another, I can reset the tool. By the way, little thing a lot of people don't know. Let's say we've done something with the tool. Hold Alt or Option and then click the reset, and you'll preview what would happen if you reset the tool, right? That way you can actually preview it before actually committing to reset it. Little thing for you. And then the three lines, what's oftentimes referred to as the hamburger. Once you see it, you never unsee it. The three lines is for presets, for saving a particular way that we use this tool for the future, right? So we could save a custom preset inside of here. Okay, so that's what those are. I could grab my dropper tool, find an area that I believe should be a true 18% gray or neutral gray or an exposure variant thereof, and redefine that as neutral, and it will adjust the image. All right. I could come to mode and change the mode as if I had shot the image in a different mode, of course, provided it's a raw file, daylight, shade, cloudy day, etc. And then I can tweak anything with Kelvin, yellow to blue, or tint, green to magenta, and kind of get something that feels either neutral or perhaps is really interesting to me, maybe kind of a cooler dynamic or really warm kind of scene. Yeah, whatever you want. Basics of white balance, not a complicated tool to use, but one we use all the time, right? Really, really critical to us. And now we're going to jump in to the really important one. This is what we're all here for, right? The color editor. The color editor is incredibly powerful, and it does way more than you think it can do. And not just that, the color editor, I think a lot of people don't know what it can do because they make assumptions looking at the labeling. It's called, the three little sections are called basic, advanced, and skin tone. I don't really like that. I prefer to think of them as pre-selected, selected, and then uniformity. Okay, so we're going to get into why, but this is the key thing. If you know how to use the color editor, you know how to use color in Capture One. So let's start with basic. And this starts off with, hey, let's edit some color, right? Stuff that we've seen before. Basic sounds like it means that we have less actual utility. That's not true, right? It just means that we have pre-selected color ranges, right? So this is generally the stuff you think of as blue, generally the stuff you think of as green, generally the stuff you think of as yellow, so forth and so on, right? And then we can alter that color based on the hue, saturation, and lightness. Hue is the actual color. Saturation is the depth of the color, and lightness is how bright it is, right? So let's say I grab my greens. Do I want them more of a forest green? Do I want them more kind of as a yellowish green? What do I want? I think I might go into a forest green. I might add some saturation, but I might darken them a little bit just to push those flowers forward, right? Now, here's an interesting question for you. Obviously, if you look at this, notice it's in exactly the order of Roy G. Biv: red, orange, yellow, green, etc., right? It's your color wheel, but it's spliced and pulled into a line. And red shifts to orange. Orange shifts to yellow. So here's my question. What is the difference, or where do you divide yellowish green from greenish yellow? Like, where does that transition end? That's really more of a matter of opinion than it is definition, right? Like, what is the point when a yellowish green turns into a greenish yellow, where we would actually categorize it under the yellows or under the greens? What you probably didn't know is that's actually your choice. Let me show you what I mean. These three dots right here, click on that. All right. And now we get edit color ranges. This is the definition of where does green end and yellow begin? Where does yellow end and orange begin, etc. Right? And notice they are asymmetrical out of the box. Green is enormous, where yellow's actually relatively small, right? So inside of here, what you can do, notice that this is turned black and white. If you see that, the reason is we have view selected color range selected at the bottom. Okay. If I turn that off, we'll see all of that in color. If I turn it back on, we'll see it in black and white, which is really useful for defining ranges. Okay. So I'm going to notice here that this area, which I know is actually yellow, right? That's yellowish orange, right? Right there. That area is not included inside of greens. Now, if I click yellow, watch what I can do. If I take this and redefine yellow as all of this stuff, I all of a sudden have one color swatch being defined as yellows that actually encompasses most of the greens and most of the yellows in the shot. If I want to edit those together, I can do that, right? No problem. Sounds really good. I also have something called smoothness. Now, notice when I have the line, I've got some stuff that's spillover on the edge, right? And it's feathering away. This is where Capture One is editing the colors outside of your range, but in a feathered or a lesser and lesser approach so that it blends better. Okay, that's awesome. That's great. All right. Now, do I want that to blend and me edit colors that I didn't specifically include? Or do I want to only edit the colors that I specifically include, which means I might have one color that's edited next to a color that's not, which can get a little bit weird. And we might change that on a picture for picture basis. That is the smoothness slider right there. That's what that is, right? Normally, we want to blend and edit so that it feels realistic. So we leave this here, if not maybe a little bit above the halfway mark, right? But it's entirely your choice. So I can do that. And all of a sudden, when I click to edit yellow, I'm clicking and I'm editing greens as well, right? Which allows me to kind of make two edits at once and make them in a way that is kind of combined or additive to each other, which is neat. Okay. So the basic tool actually has a lot of flexibility to it, right? It's just we're working with pre-selected swatches. That's cool. Now we have hue, saturation, lightness. That's not a lot, is it? Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to edit other things, other aspects of the green area? And you can. I'm going to show you how. So we're going to come to the three dots, and here is the big hidden, like seriously awesome part of the color editor. Create masked layer from selection. All right, create masked layer from selection. That right there, watch what this guy does. It's going to think for a second. You open up your layers tool right there, and notice it's made a whole new layer. All right, I'm going to put the color editor away. We're only working in a layer right now. Press M on your keyboard to see a layer, and it's all this stuff that's blue, right? That is my layer. All right. Anything you can edit in a layer is now editable, right? And so we can now edit our greens for things like clarity, for dehaze, or whatever you want. I might want to take that area, just my greens, and I might want to add some dehaze to them. That sounds fun. I could edit the contrast of just that area. I can make it darker through either the brightness or the exposure slider, whatever I want. That's pretty neat. That's useful. All right, let's get our color editor back. And let's take a look at advanced. Advanced, really think of it as selected, all right? Because that's what you're going to do. We had a color wheel here that we can maneuver around a little bit, and that's great, okay? But still it's just a color wheel. Advanced lets us really select the exact area we want to affect, okay? And so we're going to come down and grab our little dropper tool right there. Just grab your dropper, and let's work with the pinks now. Sounds good. So I'm going to click there, and it gives me a range. So we have the point that I selected and a range of colors similar to that. If you view selected color range at the bottom, you can see everything that's being added here. But this is fully adjustable. I can grab the sides and I can add other stuff. I can remove stuff, whatever I want. You'll also notice that we can bring in and out certain values in the in and out section. Well, what's that about? The inner part of the circle is the desaturated areas, and the outer part is the highly saturated areas. Okay, so we can actually do some pretty serious adjustment here. And now I want to grab everything pink that's inside of a flower and really nothing else. So I could pull this until I start to see that area right there. Don't want that, and just get rid of it. Do the same thing on the other side. And I feel like I've got all of the color range I'm going to get. And now I've got this pre-selected pink area. I have the same things you saw before: hue, saturation, lightness, and smoothness, right? So do I want this to go more into a red? Do I want to go more into this kind of really crazy magenta? I don't know. I might go a little bit more red. I might push its saturation. In fact, no, I'm going to pull back on the saturation a little bit. I think that's going a little bit too far. Kind of fiddle around with that to get a color that I really like. Now, here's something fun. You'll notice that at the bottom here, we have the selected swatches of color. That color right there, check mark that edit's being applied, okay? Notice that we have these numbers. So what are we looking at? The triangle is the symbol for delta, and delta means change, okay? So change in hue, change in saturation, change in lightness, 0.7, 0, and 4. Look what I got up here, 0.7, 0, and 4, right? That's where those numbers are coming from. So it's just saying what we've got. If I was to also select, greens there, it adds another color that I have grabbed. I can come back to editing pinks here, come over to editing greens here. Don't re-click green every time you want edit green, or you get multiple selections and each one adds your edit on top of the previous ones, and it gets really messy. You don't want to do that. But just being able to click back and forth is nice. Down here at the bottom, I've got view selected color range, and we have this kind of weird one where I can view everything else in color in what I'm actually editing in black and white. That's what this little inverted pie is. Click that again to make it go back the other way. And I can get rid of a particular selection by hitting the minus sign. Can I take this area and can I save that as a mask? Of course I can. Absolutely I can. No problem. And I'm realizing now I moved my layer tool. Oops. Let's take a look here. Layers, layers. Let's bring that over. That was my bad. All right, there we go. And so now press M on your keyboard and we can see the area. So that one right there is pink. So I'm actually going to come to the layer, right click, rename. That's, oops. I'm going to come in, rename that. All right, as pink. Come into this one, aim to see it on the keyboard. All right. That's going to be greens. So I'm going to right click, rename, and name that green. By the way, one thing, little extra bit here. You might have noticed I'm using this really deep blue color for my masks, and yours may not look like that. And be like, how the heck did you do that? Fast thing here, real quick, like for you. You can put your preferences up in your toolbar. It's one of the toolbar options, or you can come to, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC, either inside of the Capture One dropdown, or I believe it's and someone might have to correct me, I believe it's the File dropdown to find settings or preferences. It's also Command and comma, right? So multiple ways you can get there. But you can come to your appearance, come to Mask Color, and I can change the color that I view my mask in. Let's change it to red. I don't know. That sounds like fun. And then all I have to do, it's still blue. Stop seeing the mask, right, by pressing M on your keyboard. See it again, and it's red. Little thing for you. Okay. So I now have my pink area as a mask. This is where my actual sharpest points of the photo might be, but not all of them. So we can actually check. I think my sharpest point is there, but that's not actually in the masked area. Some of that area there, it's close enough. I might add something to it. So I'm going to come to my clarity tool, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of structure only to my pink area, right? And just to see kind of what that's going to do. Remember our trick, hold Alt or Option, click the reset button to see before and after an edit. And it's adding some nice stuff right there. I'm going to keep that. So that's how we can sharpen just an individual color, right? Or do almost anything else to an individual color. And we can tailor the color we're editing through the color editor tool. That's awesome. Really, really useful. By the way, just so we can see, here's what we've done with just this image, just with color editing. We've really not done anything else. This is our color edit for this image. All right. Nice. That's going pretty well. I'm feeling pretty groovy on that. All right. You can do a lot just inside of there and really have some exciting and fun stuff. But let's go ahead and add in some capacity just to the color editor with skin tone. This is one of those big hidden things that like nobody knows about, but we're going to use this the way it's intended, and then we're going to use it in a way that it wasn't intended, but it works absolutely awesome, right? So here's a portrait. This is my friend Gary. And Gary, like every other person that you will ever shoot a picture of, a photograph of, has some redness in the skin he would like to remove. Absolutely normal. That's what we're going to do, right? It's easiest to do this in a masked area. So what we're going to do here, oops, didn't mean to do that. But a little trick for everybody. I love the navigator tool. I'm going to come in here. It's not inside of the color tool tab by default. Right click, add tool, add the navigator. And now if I'm in the cursor select tool and I zoom in, I can still grab this and move around how I'm viewing the scene. Okay, so we are going to add a mask. I'm going to grab the selecting tool, right? The magic selecting brush. And I'm just going to squiggle over his skin tone. M on the keyboard to C. And I want to grab there. We specifically don't want his eyes or his teeth, all right? Because we don't want to change the color of that. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to grab my eraser, all right? And I want to erase the teeth out of here because you don't want to change the color of the teeth. That would be weird. And of course, we can always come and do. We also want to get rid of the lips real fast. So I'm going to kind of feather this a little bit. All right. Just to make sure that we don't mess them up. And let's try to make that a little bit of a nicer mask. Cool. That feels all right. I'm going to run with that. His eyes, we want to make sure his eyes are taken out of the mask. I'm going to call that pretty good enough for demonstration purposes. Okay. So we're inside of a masked area. All right. I'm going to come to skin tone. I'm going to select a skin tone that I like. That's important. You have to select a skin tone that you like. What do we want his skin tone to be? Okay, so I'm going, and it's got to be inside of the masked region because we're working inside of the masked area. So I'm going to grab my masking tool. I'm going to find a particular skin tone that I think, yeah, that's good. And let's select that. Let's call that pretty good. All right, it's not part of the red area. And now we're going to look at the way that this tool actually looks. All right. Notice the top of it is just the advanced section of the color editor, right? Smoothness, hue, saturation, lightness. It looks the same. We're selecting a color. We can edit the color and it works the same. What's the difference? The difference is the bottom portion, which is called uniformity. Here's the idea. You have a range of color that has been selected because when you select a color, you actually get a range. I can adjust to this range, no problem. All right. But here's what I can do. I can now make all of the color in the selected region more similar to the picked point in terms of hue, saturation, and lightness. And I can do it on a sliding scale. So all I'm going to do is take my hue and drag it up. That is the easiest way to remove redness in the skin in the photo editing world. Right there. And I want to come in so you can see this because this is crazy good, right? So we're going to press Y. Just look at the redness, right? Before and after. It might even be easier for me to do it this way. Okay? Before, after. After. See all of that inside of here? That's it. And the only trick really is making sure that your mask doesn't include the eyes and the teeth. All right. Because otherwise you'll change those colors as well, obviously. That's awesome. That feels really, really good. Like we're super happy with that. That is a big improvement in the skin tone. That feels awesome. Okay. Is there anything else that we could do with this tool? And yeah, there is. Check this out. I'm going to add a new layer. Okay. And I'm going to select his green sweater. Okay. Let's grab that. Do that stuff. Do that stuff. Cool. So I've grabbed his green sweater. I'm going to now use the skin tone tool. I'm going to grab green. Okay. I'm going to make that pie bigger so that I have a lot of color range that I can actually work with. And I'm going to drag my hue up. Oops, sometimes it does that, where it'll include skin tone. So let's take that out. Cool. So I've got this large range. And now I can drag up hue. And let's say I wanted to change the color of his sweater. This is the only one of the three tools where you can grab the picked point and move it. And by doing so, alter the picked color. And because of the hue slider, we haven't even touched saturation and lightness, by the way. But you can make sure to take really highly saturated areas, make them more similar to normal saturation, etc. But I can just change the color, right? Which is awesome. And so now, take away that, we've just changed the color of his sweater. You could mask a region for a car, change the color of a car, lots of things that you can do there. So that's the kind of unconventional way that you can work with the color editor, which is honestly pretty fun. I like that. But the traditional one is the skin tone. Easily able to grab skin tone and normalize it towards a color. You just don't want to drag it to 100%. And you really don't want to take your saturation very high, normalizing the saturation of skin, because it does turn into plastic. All right, so just a little warning for you there. It can bear the hue slider a reasonable amount. It can't bear the saturation slider nearly as much, right? But you'll find that as you kind of play with it. All right, cool. So the color editor, truly one of the most fun things to do. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at color balance. Color balance is a lot of fun. Now I'm going to come in. Here's an image of a place called the Dallas Divide here in Colorado, where I live. And what we're going to do here is real quick, I'm just going to hit the auto adjust for exposure, high dynamic range, levels. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Just that's a auto adjust edit, which honestly looks great. I'm super happy. Cool. Now I want to take a look at the color balance tool. What the heck is color balance? This is also sometimes referred to as split toning. And what this is saying, hey, you know what? In the real world, the color temperature of shaded areas is different than the color temperature of direct sunlight areas. And that's true. So what if we wanted to edit the white balance of midtones, highlights, and shadows separately from each other? This happens all the time. This is a normal part of editing, especially in landscapes. But we need to have a way to do it. So it has the three-way, that's the easiest way to access this, but shadow, midtone, and highlight is just those three things as their own separate kind of tool, basically is what it is. And master lets us have access to a lot of that all at once, but I find it easiest to work inside of the three-way tab. So what I want out of this scene is I want this feeling of the sun rising and warming up this scene. I want to warm up this and feels like the sun is coming in to melt the snow. Well, that means I need to take my highlights and I need to take right here, I need to take what color temperature they're moving towards. I'm going to make it more yellow, right? And then I can take, you could just grab the center and move the dot, but I find that I don't have as much control. I can take this and now I can add the amount. And notice I'm warming up the highlight regions. Now, I could go insane with that, of course, and it gets ridiculous, but I'm going to bring that down and just kind of have that warmth being added in. Feels good to me. I'm happy. But now I'm going to take the shadows I'm going to turn this over to blue. And I might make the shadows a little bit cooler. All right. Drag this back in. Let's go ahead. I've got a very particular order I like it in. And let's see before and after. I think I might actually take my shadows. I might up how cool they are. Yeah. So that's something we do in editing quite a bit. That's a nice little effect to easily be able to take a shadow region and either normalize it or be able to really emphasize its color temperature difference, which is great. So that's what that guy does, which is fun. All right. Next, let's go ahead and talk about normalization. Let's talk about normalization. And I've got some. All right, so here's the same flower shot from two different positions, two very different lighting positions. And even though my white balance didn't change, the color rendered differently, right? Color rendered differently. Well, wouldn't it be nice if I could just say, make this color the same as this color? Right? Between two different pictures. This comes up all the time. It comes up in this type of imagery. It comes up if you have images from two different cameras trying to make them the same. If anybody here does any commercial work where you actually have a brand or a product that you need to hit a certain hex number, this comes up a lot. The idea of normalizing one color into another and editing the image to make that true. That is the normalize tool. All right. It's a very, very simple tool to utilize. It just has a lot of capacity, right? So it says, I'm going to, notice this is a dropper with an up arrow. This is a dropper with a down arrow. Simple as that, right? And then I've got white balance and exposure. Cool. So what do I want? I want to say, all right, this kind of color there, all right? I want that to be something that I can apply elsewhere. And I'm going to apply it in terms of white balance and exposure. So I'm going to edit the whole picture to make these 2 points exactly the same. Now notice I have the picked color. I can only have one saved at a time, but there's going to be a workaround for that. I'll show you. And then I have the numbers. What the heck are those numbers? Click the 3 dots and we'll see exactly what they are. They're the RGB numbers. There's also HSB if you work in that, but these are the ways of categorizing a very specific color. So if you work with a brand, they will give you that set of numbers. They will tell you that. You can literally just type them in. And now all you have to do is take a picture of the product, find the color on the product, and apply that. And you've got it. It will be that color, which is awesome for commercial work. We're not worried about that, but that's how you use it. So I've picked that and I say, that looks good. Now I'm going to come to this image. I'm going to find something that should be about the same. And I think right there should be about the same. So let's use the down arrow and click. And now it has matched the color of the previous image to this one so that these two could hang next to each other on a wall and the color scheme would be identical. Now, you can only have one picked color in the normalize tool at a time. So what's the workaround? Presets. You'll notice I've made one just to show you what you can do. I've made one called Brand X, right? If I work with this one company all the time, or maybe you shoot pictures of a baseball team that is a jersey that's this exact color or whatever, right? You could just save that as a preset. So you do the normalize, right? You find an image that's edited and this is perfect. And then you click that as your picked color. And all you got to do is save the custom preset and just name it by whatever the thing is. Then all you have to do is find it, right? It now populates in here and you can apply it. Obviously, that'd be a bad idea here because it'd be turning blue into pink. That's not going to work. But that's how that operates, which is great. And that makes shooting the same item over a course of time incredibly easy. Incredibly easy, which is great. All right. Let's drop the normalize tool back into there. Okay. So let's see. I want to check my time. 5:45. I got time. Let's do this thing. This is going to be awesome. So let's actually put this into application, right? Let's actually see this in use. So let's grab an image. There it is. We're going to edit this, and we're going to edit using almost exclusively color tools with very few exceptions. The first exceptions, obviously, you know what the first one is, and it's that giant spot of dust that I've got. We're going to grab our healing brush, just come over. We're going to just mark that out. Groovy, and we're happy. Okay. I'm going to come into my crop tool, and I'm going to crop in like that in order to get kind of that rock at the bottom way I want it. Some basic stuff. Other basic stuff is just going to be, I'm going to do I'm going to do auto toning for exposure, HDR, and levels. All right. And I'm going to take my highlights down a little bit. Okay. I might bring that down too. So that's just the auto adjust. Can we do more? And can we do it with color? And you better believe that we can. So we are going to grab our color editor. And first things first, I'm just going to grab green, right? Let's work with greens. And I want to see what all counts as green in this image. I want it to be all this stuff. So I've got view selected color range turned on. And if I open this, do I get any more? No, I don't. That feels good. I don't want to start losing any greens, so we're going to call that pretty good. I'm going to take yellows and make sure I don't have anything that I don't want. But yeah, I'm happy. That feels like a good selection of green. And now what I'm going to do, let's apply that, is I'm going to take my greens. And what hue do I want this green to be? I think I want kind of a nice forest green. I think I'm going to push saturation a little bit. I think I'm going to take these areas and maybe brighten them a little bit, but I am going to, oops, clicked the wrong thing. Happens all the time. I am going to create a masked area. Awesome, cool. I love that. We're going to right click. We're going to rename that as green. Yay. Now that I have that, what would I want to do with a green, with just my greens? I think that I might want to add a little bit of dehaze to them. I think that might be nice. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to come into clarity here. And right now I'm going to leave it alone because I'm going to be adding some clarity to the actual mountains. This is a place in Colorado called the Maroon Bells. I'm going to work with that a little bit, I think. But this area, I think I'm going to drop the black in it. A little trick for everybody in color editing. If you take the black portion, just the blacks, which is your darkest, like 5% of pixels, and make them a little bit darker, what you're going to do is you add some deep black and shadow, and that actually adds to color saturation. So it's going to be really beneficial in the perceived color saturation that you have. Next, notice, by the way, I've got to come back to my background layer here. Just an important thing in order to do better color selecting ranges. And I want to grab the oranges. This time I'm going to do an advanced selection, just so we do different things. And I want to view the selected color range, and I want to make sure I get all this stuff. But I think I want to make sure that I add in as much of this kind of pinks as I can, right? Bringing that in, but I started to add in down here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make that go away. That's what I'm paying attention to, okay? So I think that that's going to be pretty good. And now what do I want? Do I want to go? By the way, nice thing you can always do is take a slider and go all the way to the end and go, that's bad, but is it the direction I want to go? And I think I want to move slightly yellow, but I want to push the saturation. So I get this nice, rich kind of orange. That feels nice to me. And I might brighten that by a little bit. And again, create a masked area from selection. This is such a powerful way of masking that we should use it all the time. I love it. Right click, rename as yellow. I'm not super clever in naming my masks and layers because I think that they should be obvious. Now, what am I going to do instead of here? This is where I actually have my critical focus, and I want it to really have critical focus. And so what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to take a look at clarity. So in clarity, structure is, I think I've got it. How did I put it in the notes? I forget that if I have that inside of there. If not, that's okay. So inside of here, we have clarity as kind of your surfaces and structures, and surfaces, right? And structures kind of your finite detail. I want to take my clarity and I want to add into just my yellows and really get something here. You can also change the method of this, which I think is kind of nice. And the way that it adjusts contrast kind of alters. So this is kind of my before and after on this tool, right? And it just punches up that detail. All right, that feels nice. I'm happy there. Okay, so we've got something. Could I do something with the sky? I absolutely can, but I think I'll leave that alone for the moment. Now I want to do something with white balance, because I think that our initial white balance is accurate, but I want to do something a little bit more. I've got the sun rising just over this mountain. I think I want to emphasize that a little bit. So let me show you a trick for that. I'm going to create a radial mask. Okay. Just create a radial mask. Center is where it's applied 100%. Okay. The exterior allows me to change the shape and to rotate it. And the outside is where the feathering completely ends. So I want to put this over here, I believe. And I think I want to elongate it. I want to rotate it. That feels pretty good. And I actually want to bring in the middle circle, which means that the feathering happens over a larger distance. Okay. I'm going to put it right where I think the sun would be, which is kind of right about there. All right. And now what I'm going to do is grab my white balance and I'm going to warm up that color temperature. All right. Now you'll notice, of course, that this is changing the color temperature of the mountain here because it's in the mask. Let's alter that. Now I know you're thinking, oh, go into the mask, grab an eraser and erase that out. There's an easier way. We're going to come to Luma Range. And in Luma Range, I'm going to display the mask with that little button. And what you can do here is just say, only have the mask applied to areas of a certain brightness. Well, the sky is brighter than the mountain. So I want to add all of the brighter areas. I'm going to start dragging the shadow areas until that disappears. And right about there, apply. And now I have the sun rising inside of the sky. Hey, that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at that. Ooh, did I do, anybody catch the mistake that I made there? I did that within a mask, which changed the way the mask happens. If you caught that, congratulations. I missed clicking on something. So I actually need to undo that. Okay. When you go and you change the way a mask is drawn inside of a mask, it redoes the mask. My mistake. If you caught it, you get 5 points. All right. I took away my clarity slider, so let's go ahead and do that. And now what I have to do, new mask, off of radial, and I'll just do the exact same thing a little bit faster just so that you see it, and you'll see it done twice, and that's pretty good. Click it over there, come over, white balance a little bit warmer, Luma Range, and I want to, display the mask and remove all of that. Now, of course, there's another little thing. That should be in the reflection, right? By the way, since it's a mask, you can pick it up and move it, which is pretty cool. So I should build another one down here, shouldn't I? Right? We're going to right click. We're going to rename that as Warm Sky. Add a new one, which we're going to rename Warm Water. I'm going to draw a similar mask, right? Put it right about there. Shrink its size a little bit. Make it a little bit warmer. Okay. And then same trick. It's the exact same thing. Display the mask. Just get rid of the water. Cool. So we did almost all of that using color. All right. So I want you to see the before and after. By the way, if you think, oh, those are a little bit too heavy-handed, since they're masks, we can come in warm sky, grab the opacity. You can pull it down a little bit. Grab warm water, pull down the opacity a little bit, right? If you want it to feel a little bit punchier, bring it back up, whatever you like. So let's do before and after. Press Y on your keyboard to see before and after view. That's before anything, that's after. And it is almost all through working with color, which is neat. Now, I have just a second here. And so I just want to briefly mention printing, and then I'm going to take any kind of questions that you have. So one thing I kind of want to mention, all right, is that when we are taking, what's the best way to phrase this? Yeah, so let's come here. Export adjustments, watermark, metadata. All right. Export recipes. The thing I want you to pay attention to if you're exporting, okay, is going to be color gamut. All right, because we have all of this range of color. And this is something that the wonderful folks at Action Camera can help you with. But you'll notice with my, I actually do, by the way, export, not through the export tool up here, but there is actually a tool tab. I do it so that I can close stuff and move it around. And yeah, I'm like that. You don't have to. But these are my export recipes. And you'll notice I don't have many of them, right? sRGB full, Adobe full, sRGB web, which is smaller, and then TIFF, okay? Why would, this comes back to that question of this thingamajig, right? Why do I have sRGB and Adobe RGB? And the answer is some processes only work in sRGB and some can work in Adobe. And it's confusing to be able to actually know, like, off the top of your head which one's which is why you work with folks at Action Camera, and they will tell you, but generally speaking, if I have like a wet chemistry process printer, that is actually an sRGB machine, meaning it can't actually handle the Adobe RGB color space. If something is on metal panels that are made through dye sublimation, not dye sublimation, but just through sublimation, that's an sRGB color space. But if we have like an inkjet printer for 20 by 30 poster, those are oftentimes, that's a dye injection, and that's like an Adobe RGB. So some processes that you print are able to handle a larger color space. So when we export, we get the ability to choose which color space, sRGB or Adobe RGB. You want to export for a particular thing that you are doing. And you know which one it is by talking to Action Camera. They'll tell you, right? They'll say, oh yeah, this is, if you're doing a canvas print, that's sRGB. Send us an sRGB file. That's going to be the best way of getting color. So we work with expanding this large range of color in Capture One. That's how you get the most out of that thing, right? Out of that process. So I just want to point that out, that when I build recipes, I have them for sRGB and Adobe RGB. And I do that depending on what process I'm doing. Okay, so I wanted to make that point, and that's why having export recipes is really useful. Okay, with that, where does an hour go, right, friends? This is the time. Any Q&A that you've got for me on really anything, I am happy to answer it. If there's any kind of announcements or anything that Chris and Laura want to announce, jump on in. Anything that I can do to help you out with your workflow in Capture One, if I'm able to help you with it, I will do so.
Cool. I was just going to jump in and just say, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. That was really good info. That normalized too. That is really, really cool. I like that feature. I'm still learning some of these little ins and outs in here myself, and that would save me so much time in a lot of situations. That's very cool.
Thank you.
I was going to just bring up just a quick question myself, and something if you wanted to talk about it real quick. But one thing with all of the color in here and talking about the color spaces is, and I know this can be a topic in itself, just be a quick thing we can talk about. But monitor's ability to reproduce color, color calibration, color checker passports. What do you use?
Sure. And do you have at Action Camera, do you have color checker passports and like the Calibrite monitor calibrators?
Yes, we do. Yeah, here, actually, I'll post a link in here. I was going to say, I've started working with a color checker passport myself. I just put a link in chat if anybody wants to take a look at what we're talking about.
Here's what these are. So the color checker passport is an understanding of, hey, every camera in the world produces a subset of the color that is reproduced in the natural world, right? And they're all different. So how can we take a camera and find out what colors it is missing? This is the thing that does it. This is called the color checker passport. They sell them at Action Camera. He put a link down there, and it integrates into Capture One beautifully, right? It works great. It integrates fine. This measures the color that your camera produces, figures out what color your camera doesn't produce, and builds a profile. You saw mine, right? It builds a profile for your camera, building out the colors you don't have. That's what this does. And it is, I've sworn by this for years. Absolutely amazing. Every camera is missing part of the color spectrum. You can build that back out. The other thing was, this is what Chris mentioned, was the monitor calibrator. This guy measures your screen. Is your screen too bright? Is it too contrasty? Is it too saturated? This actually figures that out, because monitors out of the box, they are made and put together to be brighter and more contrasty and more highly saturated than the file that they're showing. So if you've ever printed something and picked it up and said, oh, it looked brighter on my computer screen, that's because your computer screen is brightening it, right? This actually makes your screen show accurate information. So this is the i1 display from Calibrite. I've had this guy for a while, works awesome. And I know that Laura was jumping in a second ago and didn't get a chance. So if you want to pop on, I know you wanted to mention what the perpetual license deal is. And she's got it in the chat as well.
Hi, I just put it in the chat. It's the 179. If you guys purchase your Action Camera through the weekend, we are doing a new 16.3 new feature launch on the 25th. So you can still buy this weekend, and then you also get the update on the 25th or after.
Awesome. That's great. So watch out for that email. I'll send that out to everybody as well. Make sure you have the codes for that so you can take advantage of that great deal. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And that's so true, Joe, too, with the color. That's why I wanted to bring that up, because you can use these excellent tools in Capture One, but you want to make sure that what you're seeing is an accurate color as well. And so if you have any questions on that, make sure and come in and see us if you're in the local area, or you can always give us a call or drop us an email too.
Okay, so Arthur has a good question here, and Laura, you might have an answer for this that I don't, but that there's not a pro standard for the X-T2 Fuji. And I know that every now and then there's a camera that doesn't have a pro standard necessarily. Is there an ability to get that necessarily, or is it like an coming kind of thing, or do you know kind of the story behind if there's a camera that doesn't have a pro standard, what's the best step for them?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure on that answer, but Arthur, I can take this question and get your email information from your login, and then I guess you can even send it here. I'll send my email in the chat, and then I can get that answered for you.
I mean, and because the pro standards have to be built on a camera for camera basis. So it strikes me as something that would make sense, that every now and then, there's one that's missing. But if there's a good workaround.
Yeah, I can ask, and we're working with Fujifilm on some stuff too. So I know they're making sure. So that could be something I'll ask.
That's amazing. Cool. It's a great question. Awesome. What else can I answer for folks? Oh, well, while we're seeing what questions people are typing in, if you want to find me, I've got a YouTube channel called Camera Lessons Online, and I basically just talk about Capture One. Little short videos on like some stuff that's like how to do X in Capture One, and that's almost everything that I do there. So you're able to find that if you like. And this class is being recorded, and Chris is going to send out the link to the recording, and that's where it will be hosted. So that's what that is. So I'll be there for you. And Arthur has Pro Standard Film application. Cool. Awesome. Cool. All right. What else can we answer for folks? Make sure that you're really enjoying Capture One and getting the most out of it. Doesn't even have to be about color. If there's something I can answer, happy to do it. We'll hang out for a minute. Or if people feel that they're like ready to rock and roll, that's awesome too, you know? Thank you, CK. I appreciate it. Very kind of you. Give it a second.
And if you have any questions after the fact too, my email's also in there. You probably got an email for an invite to this event. You can always reach out and we can always get questions answered. We can get you over to Joe, talk to Laura. You know, we're a resource here too. A lot of us use Capture One, so we can help out. Feel free to, don't be shy.
See someone's typing, so we'll see if we got a question and I'll answer it. And if not, we'll just wish everyone a lovely evening and hope that you learned at least one thing. The most important feature to know to do food and product photography. So it's an interesting question that CK's got. What's the most important features to know about food and product photography? When it comes to product, it's the normalize tool to be able to get exactly the same edit, right? On something, I think that that's crucial, right? To say that this color will be exactly the same on a product every time. With things like food or some type of a shoot that you do regularly, I'll show you the thing that I think is actually really powerful, and it is working with styles, right? Styles are there to make your life faster, okay? So the basic way we could say, hey, if I've got, you know, a particular way that I will edit, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, let's say that I've got a particular way that I want to edit, you know, some kind of image, right? Whatever I do, right? I want to make it a little bit brighter because food photography, we want to make it nice and bright and airy, or we want to pump saturation to a certain degree. We want our blues to pop in a certain way or whatever it is, right? We'll do something, okay? And then I think the really crucial thing is to start at the same place. Because let's say that you've got a book of, a book of food photography. The images look pretty similar to each other, right? The actual look of the images. And they're supposed to. There's supposed to be uniformity to them in the way that white balance renders, in the way that your color renders, right? So get one image and get it really to that kind of the saturation point or the color gamut that you want. And then I'm starting to use styles and presets a lot more often and coming in and saying, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save a custom style, right? It's also, that's the reason I have styles up here in my toolbar, is being able to grab that real fast. And let me show you a trick if you do any portraits on top of that. Do you know about smart adjustments? Smart adjustments are just for, they're just working in face detection. So they're for people. So they don't count for the food photography. But let me show you a little workaround for some really, really fun stuff. I want to find, okay, so this right here. All right, so this is the smart album of my son, Nathan. And let's say that I have an image that is like, edited exactly the way I want. his skin tone is accurate, his exposure on his skin is accurate. This is what he looks like. This is good. All right. Right. So I'm going to make sure I've got that right. I brought brightness up a little bit. I've not moved black and contrast because I want it to be kind of a neutral face. That feels pretty good. Come to my color temperature. I might want to warm that. And I'm going to say, that's what he looks like. Okay. Here's the big trick for portrait shoots. If you shoot the same person, okay, we come to, this is so cool. We come to smart adjustments. And what I'm going to do is, this is white balance and exposure. I'm going to set this as a reference. This is my reference. This is what he looks like. I can come to another image of him in literally any other environment, right? So this is raking, some fall leaves last year. And he's in a different color temperature. He's in a different exposure, whatever. And I could just apply that, right? And now those two images look the same. But you can only have one reference in Smart Adjustments at a time. But please note, it says Save as Style. It's a giant button. You're supposed to see this. Click that, add a style, right, of just your Smart Adjustments, right? Save, and you save it as his name, all right? I'm not going to do that because I've actually already done this, right? But then notice that if I have, I'm going to reset this photo, okay? I have, under styles, I've got a couple names, right? There's Nathan right there. That's what he looks like. You can apply styles and presets at import. So if you do a shoot of somebody, you can apply this style and your editing is 90% done. And it looks the same as everything else. Because in professional output, it's about consistency more than how creative you are. And so edit one thing and create a style, right? This is how food looks if it's shot from above. Shoot food that's shot backlit, right? And then save that as a style and apply it. And you will make your workflow way faster, okay? If it's a person, do Smart Adjustments and save the Smart Adjustments as a style. And now your portrait editing gets crazy fast. So that'd be my thought there, CK, of the things that I think are really key. And that's the idea of consistency more than like, ooh, there's a clever hidden trick necessarily, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's my thought. Hopefully that's helpful. Cool. Give it a second.
I love that. That's really cool. Very good tip. Yeah, that's a
God,
really
I
neat
love that.
feature. Anytime you can save some time on all the editing too, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's what normalized presets and styles are all about, right? Is let's reproduce something. And they can be very simple ones like I just showed you, or they could be really dramatic, like high contrast black and white. You saw I had one called that in there. That's the way I like high contrast black and white landscapes to look, right? Boom, applied.
Right. Yeah, something more creative or just normalizing everything. That's
okay. So CK is asking, might be a silly question, but with your Capture One login, when you are working on, let's say, 3 different devices, those styles and presets transfer across devices as long as you are logged into the same profile account, right? Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe they do, because the styles are actually saved as something that is inside of a folder connected with the Capture One on a machine next to the actual catalog. Which is why you can grab them. You can actually grab a style, copy it, and put it into another particular machine. Am I mistaken?
I believe you're right.
Yeah. So the way that it might work, for instance, like I have my primary catalog, I can open package contents, and inside of here, right, with adjustments, this is where like your styles, your style brushes that you save, that's where all that stuff is saved. So it's connected to the actual catalog. Now, one trick that some people do as a workaround, you'll notice that my catalog is on my external hard drive. So if you have external hard drive with your images and you put the catalog there, you could plug it into multiple devices and you're actually running the same catalog. The other thing that you can do is notice, by the way, check this out. If I go to save a custom style, right? So let's say I go to save a custom style, save. Notice what it says, right? It says what it's called, untitled.co style, Capture One style. And it says, where does this get saved? Okay. Oh, so I can actually see that it's under users, my name, library, application support, Capture One styles. I was in the wrong place before. I'll show you that in a second. That's where these things are. Okay, so not here. It is File, New Finder window, go, Home, Pictures. What did that? I got to go back and take a look at it. Save custom style. What did that say? Okay, library application support capture one. That's where it is. I was in the wrong place. Wrong place. Okay, so go to. I don't want to spend a bunch of time because you saw how to get there. Home. Library. There it is. Application support. Wherever it is. All right, I'm not going to fiddle around, but
I think that's
way.
It's
But
a
you
hidden
find
library, I
the
think.
style, you can copy it and paste it, which is why styles are something that can actually be purchased from Capture One. It is a downloadable or copyable thing, so you can actually copy it and put it into different machines that have access to it. I haven't actually accessed that before, which is why I didn't know where it was like right away. Sorry about that. But that would be the thing. It's not automatically synced through your account with Capture One. That's a great question to be able to know there. Now I'm like going to scour my computer and find where that's saved because it said where it would be if I didn't see it.
Joe, I think that's under the hidden library under your profile. That's probably why it didn't show up.
Oh, hidden library under the profile. Got it.
Under
Okay.
your own profile. I've ran into that on Mac before too.
Yep.
I'll look into this too, but I'm curious too if the styles aren't too large and you can open them from any location. I wonder if you could save them into a cloud drive, a cloud location, and then you can access that on any of your computers. Just another thing that I'll verify. But you can check
That makes
it out.
sense. That makes sense. Cool. All right. Anything that Laura or Chris that you want to make sure everybody knows before we call it an evening?
Nope, just the I can send out Chris can send out some information too on the new features that are launching October 25th. I'm gonna ask too about the syncing. I know they're in beta testing of some other stuff, so that could potentially be included in that. So I'll let you guys know.
That'd be neat.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it, Joe. Thank you, Laura. I think the only thing I'll just say again, watch out for that email from me. We'll have links to the recording, to the website, to any future classes, and make sure and let us know any questions you have.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.